Everybody doing? So I'm fabulous. My payoff worked. I said I want to be the one to interview Misty Copeland. Made a nice donation to the Humanities Festival. Just kidding. Just kidding. How fabulous is she? I can't begin to tell you how much it speaks to the fact that the Humanities Festival really is focused on how to be human and our best selves by having you here. You have a new book, but your story is something that a lot of us have been, you know, we've heard it in bits and pieces, and it's been very inspiring. How, as you give advice now, right, you must be in a place of really feeling like you've found your stride.
Yeah, it's been an incredible journey, and so much of what I've learned, even just with this book and approaching it and preparing for it and writing it, is just how much I enjoy the journey. And that's something that I'm trying to share with women. It's really, you know, speaking to women, young women, and women of all ages, just to not set these goals for yourself that you may never reach, but to enjoy the process and the journey along the way. And I feel like my life has been that. From the day that, you know, my family moved to Southern California from Kansas City, Missouri. I was 2 years old, and there was just always chaos and constant motion and moving from home to home and from school to school. And it made me such an introvert, and it was hard for me to stand up for myself. You know, one of 6 children, I had absolutely no idea who I was. And I got so lost and kind of swept up in this kind of whirlwind of so many voices around me that I literally had just lost who I was. You know, by the time I was 13 years old, I mean, the fear that I had of speaking in public or just showing up for school and possibly being late, like all of these things just consumed me. And it was music that was this amazing thing for me that allowed me to feel at ease and feel like I was expressing myself. And that's when I started choreographing, even though I had no idea what that meant. I was creating movement to music that I would hear around the house.
And this wasn't classical
this was
ballet
not
type
classical,
music, right?
No, I had never heard classical music before. I didn't know anything about
So
ballet.
what were you listening to?
I was listening to Aretha Franklin. I was listening to Sade, Anita Baker, Mariah Carey, George Michael, so that kind of thing.
But you were actually choreographing.
I was choreographing to that, but and you know, all I'd ever seen was what I saw in music videos. I was, but that's the only thing I knew. That's what I thought dance was. Like, that's what dance was. But at the same time, it's so interesting because what I was creating was not that. It was just what I felt in this almost lyrical movement, which is so strange, never having had seen contemporary dance or modern dance or ballet.
And were you doing this by yourself with no audience and no sibling or anybody to see you?
Yeah, I was completely alone. It was, you know, it was hard for me to exist with so much chaos, and I'm still that way to this day. But you know, being one of 6, and my mother loving football, and everyone in my family loving sports, and it was like the TV would go on, everyone's there, you know, screaming at the TV, and I was like, I don't get this. I'm gonna go find a quiet space, and I put my music on, and I'm gonna create, and that was just the only time that I felt in charge and powerful.
And you say in this book that we all can find the thing that gives us joy, right? And for you, it was music and movement, but that everybody has something that they enjoy, but we don't necessarily focus on it with a kind of single-mindedness.
Right, yeah.
So what else could it be? You know, like, I love to cook.
Right,
I'm not sure that
yeah,
that's actually
same here.
therapeutic,
No,
but it's definitely tasty.
You know, there's something, you know, I speak about ritual and I speak about meditation in the book. Like, these things I think are so important with feeling grounded, even just to start your day and finding that balance and a focal point. And ballet class is that for me. You know, it used to be, you know, finding a quiet space and listening to music and creating, but being in ballet class every morning is like my form of meditation, of just feeling balanced in this escape from all the chaos of the world and what's going on in my personal life. And I'm encouraging people to find their own form of balance and meditation, whatever that is. It doesn't have to be so literal, you know.
It's interesting because the way that you do it, we've all been told before that we should be meditating and doing the deep breathing and take time for ourselves, but something about the way that you put it makes it seem so accessible. And I don't know if it was fate or whatever, but I was reading your book last night, going back over it. I'd read it once, and this morning I got up in a rush as usual, turned the water on to turn the shower on, and then ran and started doing something on the computer, and came back, realized the tub plug was in. So instead of a shower, I had a bath. And I said, do I get in it? Do I let the water out? Got in it, lit a candle, did my little Misty Copeland breathing. I'm not lying to you. And though I've read this before, that you should take a moment for yourself. And so I actually did. You know,
I love
you
it.
breathe in for 4 seconds, out for 5. I had it down. I really
love
did.
That's
Until the kid came in.
incredible.
Hey, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, I'm taking time for me. But ritual is become something that even Western medicine recognizes has real physiological results. But for some reason, we always say we don't either know how or have time. How did you decide that it was going to be a priority for you?
I think that it's because of the way that I grew up in such a tumultuous environment. I needed that time. And I feel like it's so critical for me to make sure that I have that time. And again, like not taking it so literal, like, you know, it's difficult, I think, for people to feel connected to or feel that it's real life, you know, like, oh, go get your yoga mat and find a corner and light some candles and sit there and, you know, that's, I think, hard for people to really
to see
feel,
themselves.
Yeah, to see themselves doing that realistically. So that's why I'm trying to recommend and advise you doing something that brings you, you know, serenity and makes you feel calm and allows you to exhale and you know, find your center and find your balance. I feel like that's the way everyone should start their day, you know, with a clear mind, and that mental and emotional clarity and strength is so vital for dancers and for athletes, but I think that everyone can benefit from that strength.
So in a book that has a very good deal of exercise or movement instruction, as well as some real usable fabulous recipes, you don't start out talking about what you eat. And you don't start out telling us to drink a lot of water and get a lot of sleep, because we all know that we've been told that, and I haven't figured out how it works. If I drink a lot of water, I don't get any sleep. I'm up all night going to the bathroom. But you start out with this mental journey of deciding, you know, get your mind right, basically. How hard is that, though, for people to do? I mean, it's just not something you say, okay, I'm gonna think myself into a healthier lifestyle.
Right. I feel like I'm using the structure of classical ballet with this book because that's how I live my life. I feel like I've benefited so much from being part of an art form, number one, and from being a part of classical ballet that has taught me this amazing discipline that allows me to feel organized and calm within the structure of my life. And so, I don't know, I think it's just being an athlete. I think that everyone can relate to it, and I think that people should look at dancers in the same way. You know, you have to have that focus to do whatever it is you're doing in your life, whether it's being in school and focusing on your work, and or being a mother and focusing on your children, and all of these things. Like, I think that you have to, maybe you don't realize you have that mental strength and what it takes to do that, but I think it's maybe understanding and recognizing that you have that, and then honing it, you know, and using it when maybe it's harder for you to focus on things.
It's very easy to get caught up in what you're doing every day without planning for what you hope you'll be doing 6 months from now, a year from now. Goal setting and visualizing those goals is something that you say it was very important for you.
Yeah.
And in our own lives, if we're not an athlete or a dancer, and the goal is just to be, okay, so our goal may not be Ballerina Body per se, all right, but one that is fit and, as you put it, your divine body. Everybody's not going to, because she looks pretty dang fabulous, right? But everybody's not going to, you know, I mean, we're not all going to be there, that's for sure. How do you know from your starting point, that my goal is where.
And that's the thing. Like, I feel like, again, like, this isn't a dieting book. Like,
No, it's
this
not.
this is my life and my experiences that I want to share with people that I've learned from being a dancer. And I think that it's important to love who you are now and live in the present, and not think, oh, I'm going to love myself when I reach this goal and when I weigh this much and can wear a dress that's this size. Like, I think that you have to,
Wait,
again...
that's not a good goal? Wait, wear dresses this size? That's...
I mean, I just don't believe in numbers. And...
I should point out, there are no calorie counts on the recipes. They do. Somebody clapped for that, right? Because I'm not sure how many calories I'm
like,
supposed
just
to have
eat
a day.
pizza all night.
But in your book, the pizza's going to have some healthy things on it, and you don't really believe in denial.
No, I don't. I mean, I feel like I want to live a realistic existence where I'm going to be living and enjoying myself. I think it's all about understanding that this is a lifelong journey, that it's not about, for 5 months I'm going to eat this, and then what happens after that? Your body's going to act crazy, and you're going to crave these things that you once had, and so I think it's all about everything in moderation, and I don't own a scale. I think it's about how you feel in your skin, how you feel beautiful and good about yourself, and again, just enjoying the journey and not feeling like because one day, you failed in your eyes, that every day is another opportunity to be better and start again. And I think that when you get frustrated, like, oh, I didn't work out as hard as I could have, or oh, I didn't make it to the gym, like, I think that we just have to approach our lives in that way, that, and again, going to the mentoring section, I know I'm skipping ahead, but that it's so important to have people around you that are going to be there to say, like, it's okay, do it again tomorrow, like, try again tomorrow, and just enjoying that process.
And in fact, you didn't arrive here on this earth with this knowledge. No. You had to kind of fall down a little bit and have some real self-analysis or so. When you were told, at 20 or so, you said you kind of blossomed suddenly.
Yes.
Got lumps and bumps where ballerinas are not supposed to have them, and we're told, look, you're getting a little. What's the word they would use?
They wouldn't really use a word. It was more. Well, they would tell me I needed to lengthen.
Lengthen. So it's like my girlfriend who says I'm not overweight, I'm under tall. So I'm not sure, how lengthen.
Right. I didn't understand that either.
No.
Something that, and I talk about it in the beginning of the book, that, we live in a society where we're on social media, and we're so affected by these visuals and imagery that we see, that, this is what you're supposed to look like. This is what's beautiful. This is, all of these things. And it's just always bothered me, like, seeing these models and actresses on these magazines, and they talk about, they're just naturally this way, and they, sleep, and
I sleep a lot and I drink a lot of water.
And it's like, come on, like, it's hard work to be healthy, and I want people to understand and accept that it's hard work and it's a commitment, but it's not just for you, it's for your family, it's, it's for your children, it's to be around and be healthy and take care of yourself and feel good. But yes, I mean it's been a journey for me, and I grew up with, my mom didn't cook. We didn't know how to take care of ourselves and what to eat. I was eating, canned vegetables and hot dogs and Spam and Cheetos and Doritos and
making me hungry.
And I had no idea how to take care of myself. I naturally, had a beautiful body for ballet at the time, and then when I hit puberty really late in my life, I was already a professional dancer, and my body completely changed. And it was like, now what do I do?
It's like overnight. You said your body just suddenly.
Literally, I mean, it was within months that it changed, and I was in this really unfamiliar body. It was like, I don't know what to do now. And as a professional, you don't get a lot of guidance in that area. It's like, okay, you're an adult, figure it out.
Fix it.
fix it. And it just took a long time, just trial and error. I, of course, went through that rebellious stage at, 19, 20 years old, where I was like, you want me to lengthen? I'm going to eat all the Krispy Kreme. And, I was only hurting myself in the end. And it's
but you were feeling better for that moment that you were eating those Krispy Kremes.
You feel better for that moment. And then, the next morning you have to get up and look at yourself in the mirror, feel, how I felt in my skin. And that's so common, I think, for people to experience going through something like that. And it took me understanding, like, I only have one body. This is it. And what I do for a living, my body is everything. So it was, again, just figuring out what worked for me. Like, I ended up cutting out meat. I'm a pescatarian, so I eat just seafood. And I share that that's how I live, and I'm not recommending that everyone do it, but there are ways of, interchanging different proteins and lean proteins if you don't eat seafood, and but realistically sharing, like, the meals that I make for myself, and I love to cook. And
yeah, I'm going for the lentil soup, and I'm a big soup person. It's also a black bean soup with lime, shrimp on top. I'll be through every recipe by the end of the summer. But speaking of, how you feel good in your own skin, so your size becomes an issue, your race is an issue, your age is an issue. You don't even take up ballet until 13. So on how many different levels are you told you can't? And how did you deal with that?
So many of those things kind of went hand in hand, and I don't think I truly understood that. As a 13-year-old, I was called a prodigy, and the color of my skin was never brought to my attention. I had no idea the lack of diversity in classical ballet at that point. I was this tiny little thing. It was the first time, being a part of the ballet world was the first time that I felt beautiful. As an average kid going to my public school, I looked crazy, with these big old feet and tiny little long legs and this little head, and it was like, that's
I'm not saying that, but okay.
And then I came into the ballet world, and it was like, oh, you have the perfect proportions. This is exactly what, ballerina should look like. And then it all changed, again, like, my body changing, and then looking around and realizing, like, oh, I'm the only black woman here in American Ballet Theatre. And then 10 years later, like, I'm still the only black woman here at American Ballet Theatre. So, there were so many obstacles, but I feel like when it comes to the body issue thing with dancers, especially dancers of color, I feel like there's this hidden language that's been used for, as long as ballet has been around, and that's telling dancers of color that they don't have the right bodies for ballet. And I really took that to heart, and I feel like it's them wanting to say, you don't have the right skin color for ballet, because there are such a variety of bodies out there that aren't of color that are so successful in the ballet world. And
just
I think
as there are in other ethnicities.
Exactly. And so I think that it was me recognizing, understanding, and accepting that's what that meant, and then how do I overcome this?
So when you say 10 years later you were still the only dancer of color, I'm going to ask you a kind of direct question. Is that because we don't have enough dancers of color who are coming up through the development pipeline, or is it because of some sort of framework within the world of professional ballet?
It's both.
Okay.
I feel like I've seen such a shift being given the opportunities that I have to have the platforms to speak to and reach more people outside of the dance world, that, a lot of these companies, they don't want to deal with people coming to them like, why don't you have any minority, like, what's going on?
So you see some outreach going on.
Yeah, I've seen a big shift in the ballet world, and even just the conversations that are being had. But yeah, when you're in communities that don't have access, that have never seen, they're not exposed to the fine arts and ballet in particular, like, how are you ever going to be a part of it?
Right.
And so it's just this cycle, and there are so many diversity initiatives out there, but they're not, like, getting to the people, to the right people, or there's something that's happening in between that's not allowing them to progress into higher levels of training. And a lot of that has to do with the power of, being able to see yourself represented in these spaces, being able to see someone who looks like you on the stage, that's so powerful in a child's mind.
And you are that person. You talk about how rewarding it is for you to be with young dancers. Today you were on the Steve Harvey show, and I understand the Mayfair Academy. I don't know if there's anybody in the house of Mayfair Academy on South King Drive that's been going on for 50 years. I know we got Homer Bryant alum in the house. But these little girls, hugging your leg, and like you are their hero, their shero.
It's amazing. I mean, it's so emotional because like I am them, like they're me, but I am them, and I know what it is to be in their position, and at that age I didn't know of any black dancers, and that's also like a part of my mission. It's like they're there, they were there, they're a part of the ballet history, and I want to share their stories and educate people because I wouldn't be here without them.
I understand you actually did discover that there was a black prima ballerina in Europe that none of us had ever heard of, and that kind of became a touchstone for you.
Yeah, there have been so many that I have discovered along the way through my own research. I mean, I remember when I was promoted to soloist in American Ballet Theatre, all of the headlines were, Misty Copeland's the first African-American woman to ever be promoted to the position of soloist. And then I'd hear little, and no one knew. And then I'd hear people that had been in the company in the 70s and the 80s, and they're like, no, there was a girl that was a soloist here, and I swear she was black. And I'm like Googling.
Somebody do the pencil test?
Like, it's crazy. And I'm Googling, you can't find anything. And it's crazy to me. And like Nora Kimball was her name. And she was Asian and black, and it's so wild that there's like no history.
It wasn't celebrated.
It wasn't celebrated. You can't find it in a book, and I feel like that's my part of why I'm here, and giving these young girls, more people to see themselves through.
So you've sparked a conversation around race, one of America's most fun conversations. And how do you insert yourself in that conversation? How do you make a difference?
I mean, all I can do is be real and talk about my actual experiences, what I've gone through, what I see with my own eyes behind the scenes, being a part of the ballet world for almost 20 years now. And I mean, how can you not respect someone who's speaking from their own, experiences and truth? And so I've just I feel it's so important, and it's so much a part of me and a part of my journey and a part of my success, and the time when there wasn't success. All of that has to do with the fact that I'm a black woman, and so I can't just kind of forget about that because I'm here in this position now. Like, it's a conversation that needs to keep going if we want more me's, if we want more Nora Kimballs and Raven Wilkinsons and Virginia Johnsons and Alicia Graffs. Like, we need to keep that conversation going. So I feel like it's a part of me, and I can't not talk about it. Even when those people are like, can't you talk about anything else? You're a talented dancer, you're not just black. And I'm like, well, I am a black talented dancer.
Which is, of course, a lesson that can translate into a lot of other fields. What you're doing, not just talking about, trying to encourage more girls in underserved neighborhoods where they may not visualize themselves as being able to be you. You have Project Plie. Tell me what that is.
There are so many amazing diversity initiatives that have been in the ballet world forever. And I feel like I just want to shed light on all of those. And so it only made sense. There have been different diversity initiatives and things like in American Ballet Theatre since its inception. So I felt like this is time to bring in like the big guns, like bring in people who can really reach those communities. And me starting out at a Boys and Girls Club, it was like, well, this makes sense. So bringing in the Boys and Girls Clubs of America with American Ballet Theatre, we started Project Plie, which is a diversity initiative that's going out to these underprivileged and more diverse communities and seeing what talent's out there, getting them scholarships, getting them the same training that dancers who have the access and have the funds and reach to be a part of it. And
Leveling the playing field a bit.
Yeah.
And also probably seeing some talent that would have otherwise been missed.
Absolutely.
So to the
It's
benefit of the
amazing.
entire for the audiences and the field in general. So the title of your book is not a joke. It does not. You really do mean that we can all get closer to a ballerina body, which the lengthening. We laughed about. You're whatever height you are, you're not going to get any taller. But the exercises are different than what we are generally doing, and part of it you developed when you were injured in 2012, and to come back from that, you couldn't stand up and do the exercises that you were usually doing, so you were doing, and I can't pronounce what they called it, but whatever it was, you laid on the floor and did it. Connect.
Boris Knissev technique, but it's floor bar.
Got that? Okay, floor bar. Okay, that's easier. And some of that is in the book, and it's really something anybody can do.
Yeah. The whole point of this book is for people to find their own versions of their healthiest self, their own versions of a ballerina body, and redefining what that means, like what a ballerina body is. Like, I have created my own version of a ballerina body. It's not what, if you go ask someone on the street corner, what do you think a ballerina looks like? They probably like, she's real thin and she's white and, and I feel like I'm changing people's
And she doesn't need a bra, and
perspectives. And so, I want this to be accessible for everyone. I want this to be not for dancers, or not just for dancers, but the technique, and especially with the movement and motion portion of the book, it's all connected to the ballet technique in a really accessible way. When I had surgery on my leg, I had a plate screwed into my tibia.
You had 6 stress fractures in one bone.
Yes.
Sounds like we shouldn't even be able to know there's a bone there anymore. I mean, to come back from that and dance again was not guaranteed.
No, yeah. I mean, I was told by every doctor but one that I most likely wouldn't dance again, or I wouldn't be able to get back to where I was. And then the one who said yes, I was like, I'm going with you.
That's right. That's my new doctor. Okay. And you credit this floor bar.
Yes, and during that process of recovering from the surgery, I had met a woman who has taken over this technique from the founder in Paris, and she lived very close to me in New York City, and I would just go to her home, and after my surgery, she would come to my home, and she would pull me out of bed and lay me on the floor, and we'd start doing ballet on my back and on my stomach and on my side, and so when I realized like this is what I wanted to do with this book, I thought like these are like she works with obese people, she works with the average mom, she works with professional dancers, and it's like these are exercises that anyone can do, and we're working towards developing the lines and muscles of a dancer. So that's really where the movement portion of the book stems from.
So that's what we're going to do, people. We're going to develop the lines and the muscles of a dancer. We are not going to lay on the floor today, but surely there is something that we could do sitting in a chair. What can we do?
This is just really simple, and maybe some of you guys have done something like this. But especially like for people, I think, who sit at a desk all day, and I think it's good just to remind yourself to get some movement going in your body and in your shoulders and in your back. So we'll start just with your feet parallel and right underneath your knees, and your knees in the same line as your hips. And you're going to feel almost elevated, and we call this posting. So you're going to imagine that your feet are pressing. I wouldn't recommend doing this in heels, but you're going to imagine your feet kind of pressing into the ground. Did you take your heels off?
I did.
Pressing into the ground.
Like Misty Copeland to give me
in-person
coaching. I'm taking my shoes off.
So that you're really pressing your feet into the ground, almost so much that you're feeling your hamstrings and your glutes activating, and it's almost as if you're literally like levitating off the seat, and you're activating those sits bones and the hamstrings and all of these muscles here. And then once you get into that position, you can be here and just reach back over your chair. Your boss won't even notice you're doing it, and you can reach around.
Get to know the person next to you, kind of thing. That actually feels really good. I'm not kidding.
And turn the other way.
Did I shave my arms today?
I think just little things like to get your body moving when you're not used to being active and you're in an office, and little things like that aren't even noticeable, sitting on a bus or in the subway.
So because sometimes we don't take the time, but and sitting, by the way, someone said to me the other day that sitting is the new smoking. We sit at our computers, we're not going to the store, we're ordering stuff online, we're working, what have you. So to have something you can actually do while just sitting. I have to say that looking through these exercises, there's nothing there that I said, I can't do that. It was all accessible and achievable. And the goal is your own individual goal. You talk about actually creating vision boards, and maybe we've done this with young people that we know, and we think, oh, that's I'm too old for that.
Cute.
That's cute, okay, but you really do it.
Yeah, I mean, not even that you have to create an actual vision board, but being able to like envision your goals and envision what you want for yourself. Like I've done a lot of journaling. Like that's kind of my way of putting to paper like what I am going through or what I want to achieve, and it's been so cathartic, and at the same time I learned so much from having something that's so tangible. And so I, just
you go back and read former entries
absolutely.
and say, and
I have like 20 journals at this point, just from starting them, I think when I was like 15. And it's so nice to go back and look on those and think like, oh, I've grown so much from this, or I've learned from this, whatever it was I was going through, or maybe I haven't, and like I need to think about those things. Or I just think it's a nice way to remind yourself of what you've been through and your journey, and that's so much part of what the book is.
How old are you?
I'm 34.
How long do prima ballerinas generally get to be prima ballerinas?
As a principal dancer, you probably have the longest career in terms of the ballet structure. As a corps de ballet member, you probably dance or would retire the earliest, just
so those
because
are like the background singers, right?
They're the most important people on the stage.
Well
they
said.
really are, and they work extremely hard. They're on the stage pretty much every night, and they're probably in every act, and so it's a lot more brutal on the body. And then as a soloist, it's a step up where you're maybe not on as much, but you're still doing a lot more work. And as a principal dancer, you may be on 1 to 2 times a week because it's so hard on the body, and that we have a lot of interchanging of the casting and principal dancers. So as a principal dancer, a woman would retire, I think, 40 years old. Some go on, to their early 40s, but that's about when. And
you were telling me that in Europe, that's not the case. That you kind of you're like there for your.
It's amazing there. I mean, they have such incredible support from their governments, and it's like a family.
All right, don't start.
They do. It's amazing to see. I was in Milan working with La Scala ballet company there, and it's incredible to see that they don't just throw you out. It's like you've been a part of this company, and you can still be a part of it in some way and give back in some way. And so you see these 60-year-old men in there taking class, and I'm like, oh, that's awesome.
I'm gonna go to that class. I mean, any guy who would, he's really in touch with, his divine self. So you got mind, you got motion, you got what you put into your divine self. It really, I'm gonna warn everybody, this is not the book that you're gonna loan out, because it's a reference. Your recipes are in there, your exercises are in there. Different from your earlier book, which, Life in Motion. But you still do have a lot of emotion in this book. What can we expect next from Misty Copeland?
Oh my
I'm sorry, I don't want to take you out of this moment right now. I know, but what can we look forward to? What's in your vision board for the next few years?
Right now, I mean, I have this incredible book out, but my career is always first and foremost, my ballet career. So, it's only I think it's my second year, going into my third year as a principal. And it's still so new, and I just want to continue to be better. Like right now, my vision board is Giselle, which is happening in like a week and a half. Okay. The first time that I'll be doing it. So it's really exciting, and I just try to stay present and in these moments as they're happening. Like I'm not ever going to get my first time back again. Mm-hmm. Like it's just a beautiful thing. So right now, dancing.
And your audience, you have brought a new audience to the American Ballet Theatre. Would you not agree that there are people who say, I don't want to go to ballet, but I want to go see Misty Copeland? Seriously. I mean,
It's amazing.
so thank you for that. Thank you for that. And since we've filled up the Chicago Temple, I don't want to take a second away from any of you in the audience who would like to ask a question of your own.
So do you still do the corn chips and hot sauce and or what was it? Bright orange cheese?
I don't want to go that far, but I do allow myself, like, you know, if I want to have a pizza, like, I'll have some pizza. But, you know, again, it's everything in moderation. Like, if I want to have some ice cream, I'll have some ice cream. But I think that when you neglect yourself of these things that you enjoy, that you will just crave them more, and then you will go overboard and binge. So I think that you know, it's about understanding what you need and just getting little bits of what you want.
So I say wine every day to prevent alcoholism. All right, so
We'll take our next question back here. Ma'am?
How did you find your experience being on Broadway in a totally different venue?
Oh my gosh, it was completely different. Like, everything about it. You know, I wanted to dive into something that was going to push me and challenge me and make me a better performer. And Broadway did that. Just from the moment that, you know, as dancers, we're so used to spending, you know, weeks and weeks on a role and learning something, and you're in front of a mirror and you're being critiqued on, and, you know, where your finger is and where your head is and where you're looking, and, you know, there's so many details. And when I got to Broadway, they were like, you got 2 weeks and you have to learn all this script, and then you got to learn to sing, you got to learn the words, and you got to learn this choreography. Oh, and we're putting you on the stage and there's no mirrors. Go.
okay.
I was like,
kind of ad-libbing some of that, right? Just for a little background, you were on Broadway.
I was in On the Town, and I closed out the show the last 2 weeks of them performing in New York City, and it was an incredible, incredible experience. I feel like I came back to American Ballet Theatre with a different appreciation and understanding for communicating and acting on stage, and it was, I don't know if I'll be doing it again soon, but
Which makes me ask, you know, once you get past the prime age of, you know, 65 or whatever for the ballet as a soloist, have you ever thought about film, TV, anything like that?
It's so hard for me to envision those things at this point. I mean, and when people do ask me that right now, I'm like, no.
Never say never.
But never, you're right. Hi.
Do you have any other type of dance form that you feel like you can express yourself?
Well, I think what I was doing before ballet was some other type of dance form, and I was definitely expressing myself.
Wait,
I don't know.
you're not going to say you twerking or anything, are we?
No. I feel like because I started so late at 13 that I didn't really have an opportunity to dive into different genres of dance because I had such a short period of time to prepare to be a professional. So ballet was my complete focus. I've done some modern dance and some hip hop. I have to credit Debbie Allen for that. When I was 13 or 14, I did her Chocolate Nutcracker, and I had to samba, I had to do hip hop, I had to do a little bit of everything, and so I've had a little bit of experience.
When you go to enjoy something as a member of an audience, what do you want to go to?
I like going to concerts, like listening to music. It's my favorite thing.
Music and movement was her escape.
Hi, I'm a senior in high school, and I'm going to college next year to major in dance. And I would just like to know, like, what do you think, like, what should I tell myself and, like, think about to, like, push myself to get to somewhere that seems so far? What do you think I should keep reminding myself?
I think it's important for you to do what's right for you and to take your time. The fact that you are educating yourself and dancing is incredible. There will be a place for you and a time for you, and I think that you need to be patient. I think it's so easy for us, you know, especially nowadays, to get so ahead of ourselves, and we need instant gratification. And oh, I need to be a professional now. I'm going to be too old by the time I get out of school. And I think that when the right company comes along, they will appreciate and love you, and then you will have a much better experience.
Good evening.
Hi.
One thing that really struck me in the passing of Prince was watching you in your performances with him. I wondered if you share with us some reflections on that.
Yeah. Prince was such a big part of my, discovering of myself. And I feel like he came into my life at a really critical time when I was kind of floating around in ABT. I had already been promoted to soloist, and I was still trying to figure out who I was as an artist. And he pushed me to feel okay with being different and not fitting into the mold, which is everything he was, And I'm just I think I worked with him for 5 years, and those experiences are something that I remember so vividly, and I will never forget. I feel like he was just such a big part in creating the woman and performer that I am.
What advice can you give young African American girls growing up who aspire to be like you? Also, just dealing with the challenges that they face every day as far as inner city violence.
Support, mentors, if it's not around you, seek it. Find organizations and programs and things like that where you can be a part of something positive, and surround yourself by people who are succeeding, who look like you. And there are so many programs out there, and I'm sure here in Chicago that they could be a part of. But I think it's important to know that there's more for you. There's more for you, not just what you see on television and the violence and, what people think we're capable of as Black people in America. There's more.
Are there any dance moves you still want to learn?
Dance moves? Is that? Oh, man. I don't really know what's happening right now, in pop culture, dance moves and stuff. I just learned yesterday about some hip-hop ballet thing.
Oh.
What's it called? You guys know what it is. What's it called? Hiplet.
Hiplet?
I don't know if I want to learn that, but that looks crazy.
I don't know. I'm sure if you did it, it wouldn't look crazy. I'm sorry, I can't tell you, but what was that one? Teach me how to... Dougie. That's the last dance I knew how to do, okay? So that's been a while.
In my dance company, I am one of 4 Black people in a company of many. I just wanted to know, how do you think I should be able to maintain being a role model for younger students so they can come join the company too,
That's awesome. For me, if I couldn't find that support within the company, which it was hard for me to. I mean, I was by myself. I had some Black men in the company with me that were there supporting me, but I went outside of the ballet world to find that support. And I think that you need to, those days when you're not feeling strong, or you feel like what am I doing here? I don't belong, I don't fit in. It's important to have that support coming from somewhere, even if it's not from the people that are in the company with you, but finding someone that understands you and can relate to you so that you can be that for these young girls that are looking at you too.
Ms. Copeland, we have a question in the balcony.
Oh, great. Forgot to...
I was wondering, was it difficult trying to express through words what it's like to be a dancer?
No, not really. I think also just because I have experienced so much lack of understanding that it's allowed me to articulate what it means, the hard work, and just I talk about it so much, but just how much athletes are celebrated here in America. It's we're them and more, and so it's easy for me to articulate that.
I'll take our next question right here.
If you were to be in any other company, what company would you want to be in?
Ooh. Oh my gosh, that's really hard. I truly feel like if I had to choose to be, like, American Ballet Theatre is it for me in terms of classical dance. Like, this is what I've always wanted. I absolutely love their rep, the history, the diversity that's come through that company, and not just, you know, like just coming from different training and different backgrounds in different countries. But, gosh, I don't know. I would probably be in some real contemporary company, like take my shoes off and get down on the floor, like somewhere in Europe.
Okay. Well, American Ballet Company, definitely they're the top now, partly because you're there. So you've been a part of their history in modern times.
We have a question upstairs.
I am also an introvert, and I actually have, how did you survive being an introvert? Because I'm also a dancer, and I also actually want to be an artist, but, it's just kind of similar in the artist community. There aren't that many Black people, and, if you really want to know someone, you really have to search. But, I'm kind of afraid to, since I'm really introverted and there aren't that many people who look like me. So how did you survive that?
I think it's finding the strength in the things you love. So first of all, you just got up and spoke in front of all these people, and that's a pretty big step as an introvert. I think that you need to find that strength and power in the things you love and apply it to these things that are scary. And I feel like that's how, I wouldn't I wouldn't speak in school. If the teacher called on me, I'd be sweating, oh my God, please don't make me say anything. And now I speak in front of thousands of people. And I feel like it's because I used the power and the courage and the experience I have as a performer on stage as a dancer to be able to find that courage and fuel to give me that power. But use your talent and what you feel good in.
One question on the left. How do you deal with your nervousness before performances or anything that you might have? I don't know.
The one thing that I never was nervous for was performing ballet. Of everything in my life, it was so difficult for me to do. But the older I get, I feel like the more you really realize what's at stake and the pressures, and then that's kind of when the nerves creep in. And to me, it's negativity, and I try and use the characters that I'm portraying to take over in those moments. So it's not Misty out there that's naked on the stage, oh my God, these people are staring at me. But I am that character, and I feel like that helps me in terms of the technical steps that I'm doing, that I'm not just out there trying to accomplish these technical things, that it's an entire performance, and I am that character for the entire 3 hours or whatever it is of the evening, and it allows me to forget about the performance and just be present and be the performance.
Hey, I'm Jakira. I'm from Kip Bloom, #1 top school on the South Side, and I wanted to know, when was the time you wanted to give up but you kept going?
You said #1 top school, all right?
I think one of the times that I was really close to giving up, and I didn't have a ton of support at this point in my career. I was in the Corps de Ballet at the time, and I was just really having a difficult time, and I thought about going to another company. I thought about stopping altogether. I actually was I could be a DJ or something like that. And my mom and everyone in my family, they're what are you doing? What are you talking about? And I'm I don't know. I just was lost. And then I got a call from Arthur Mitchell, who was the founder of Dance Theater of Harlem and was the artistic director at the time. And he called me into his office, and he was it was the first time I had someone that looked like me, that I really respected, that was like, you have it. You have that thing that, can't be taught, and you need to walk into that room every day at American Ballet Theatre knowing that. And then he said, do you want a soloist contract? And I was like, oh my gosh, like, should I do this? And I feel like his words made me like rethink and reconsider everything. And it brought me back to like, ABT's my goal. Like, if I don't push for what I want and push for change there, then it's like, what am I doing? Just continuing this cycle.
Sidestep.
Yeah. And so that was the time, and he was a big part of that decision to stay and keep pushing.
Someone tells you have it. Did anyone ever tell you don't have it, you should try to do something else?
Not that I didn't have it, but like maybe like you just, I hear it all the time still to this day, like, it's stuff I shouldn't read, but just again, those hidden messages within those words of like, you just don't belong. Like, oh, your legs are too bulky, you're too hyperextended, your chest is too big. And it's just like, those are the things I'm used to. And so you just gotta shut them down.
That's right, pay no attention to that.
One more question on the...
I wondered if you'd be willing to share something about your personal life and about all those brothers and sisters that you were raised with and how they reacted to your good fame and fortune, and what your current personal life is about, if you're willing to share.
She's a plant. I put her out there to ask that.
I know. You're like, what's happening in your personal life? I'm like, well, right now I'm eating Cheez-Its. Yeah, it's shocking for my family. Like, and the most, and I don't think it's the success. The most shocking is seeing me speaking. Like, really, it's like, who are you? I was this little girl that like hid between my siblings and didn't want to be heard, didn't want the attention on me. And I think that I think that it's proving to them what the arts can do for a child. It's like, I'm proof of it, and that's, I think, pretty amazing for them to see. It's also incredible how well all of my siblings are doing, having come from, the environments that we've come from. Like, no one ended up in jail, no one's killed anybody. Like, these things that, like, it happens. It's a vicious cycle when you don't have a support system and you don't have a true solid home environment and people to look up to. So it makes me proud that, I don't know, something my mom did or the genes that, we all just kept fighting. And I think that's what we saw from my mother. Besides that, I'm a newlywed. Yeah.
That's what she's getting at.
Okay.
She has a
That's
son she was trying to hook you up with. She just want to make sure you were not single. Okay.
My name is Hendrix, and how did you know that you wanted to be a ballerina?
That's a good question. I don't know that I knew, though my mom likes to tell this story that when I was like 3, I've seen the pictures, but that I wanted to be a ballerina for Halloween, and I think I wore the same tutu for like 3 or 4 years, and she finally had to like hide it and throw it out. And there was something going on where I was like, I don't know, I was drawn to that in some way subconsciously, but I didn't know I wanted to be a ballerina until I actually took a ballet class, and then that was the first time that everything just clicked for me. It was like, I'm beautiful here. I'm smart here. I belong. I feel comfortable. I have a voice. I have power. And that's when I knew.
And we appreciate all of it. Misty Copeland, everybody.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.